This is Karen Hudis reporting on the 27th of August, and I'm reporting about what has been going on with Barry Chamish, who died very unexpectedly on Tuesday. And this happened at the end of a report that I made to the Israeli Mossad. And after I saw that he had died, I realized that this was a watershed moment. And that's why I'm talking to you. I had tweeted the evening after I found out about his death. That was Wednesday night. Okay, this is my Siamese cat that loves to dog the camera. Okay, Mocha, come on. You're not invited. We always begin this way. So, let me tell you about Barry Chamish. He is a Canadian-Israeli reporter who broke the story about how Yitzhak Rabin was murdered, and his death was blamed on the conservative movement, but it was actually, he was murdered because he was no longer required. What had happened was the Israelis traded Yemeni babies for their nuclear program. And there were about 4,500 babies who went to ghastly deaths. They were used as guinea pigs because the United States wanted to test what would happen to human beings with radiation. Some of the children were adopted. The reason that the Yemeni babies were selected was because when the Yemeni immigrants came to Israel in the beginning of the 1950s, they didn't have enough political clout to protect their children, and that's how their children were taken away from them by hospitals. And Barry Chamish broke this story, and I found out about it, and I repeated it and gave him full credit in a video program. So let me explain the significance of all of this, because the Israelis have been given the role of scapegoat. And because of the integrity of Barry Chamish, who broke the story, no, this is not working. And the conversation that I had with the Mossad was that the story had been broken, that there was no reason to stick with that story because everybody had seen that the Israelis were definitely not to blame, that this was just a plot that had been foiled. And there was no reason to perpetuated. And so I gathered the reaction of the Mossad, rather than to listen to reason, was to murder Barry Chamish that very evening. So let me explain what the story was that Barry Chamish broke, and I'll also give you some more details about his death. First, let me quote from a retired Marine who wrote how the plot was being used, and that the criminals were hiding behind authentic Judaism, but actually their plot has nothing to do with religion. They're not religious people. They're just hiding behind the Jewish faith. So I'll quote from this wonderful retired Marine. The enemy uses its near total control of global media, education, and entertainment to maintain its invisibility with a high wall of false reality, but the accelerating social and economic stress to which it has subjected the American public by its massively fraudulent and destructive schemes is dragging the enemy toward the light and explosive public wrath. The enemy's critically important control of the U.S. military is rapidly evaporating. The American, Russian, and Chinese militaries, in concert, have determined the wisdom of the bringing to an end of the family's plans for fomenting World War III and its New World Order pretensions and its murderous existence. Closing with the enemy has already begun. And I'm still quoting. The enemy hides behind authentic Judaism and when attacked will deceptively claim anti-Semitism and hate crimes at work. Members of the enemy are not Jews in any way. They don't have a religious humanitarian bone in their bodies, only a lower order predator instinct. Okay, now I've got to scroll up on my computer. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but I'm trying to get this story out because it needs to go out. Okay, this is what what Barry Chamish had sent to me and what I used in the teleprompter script for the DCTV program, which broke Barry Chamish's story. And again, this is reading from Barry Chamish's email to me. I was in the middle of the stolen Yemenite children issue. Rabbi Yutzi Meshulum asked me to be his spokesman for the stolen Yemenite babies of the 1950s. I accepted, but I'm so tired of being right. Below Israel is awakening 20 years after me. My goal is to get Israelis smart, not give Jew haters ammunition. The latter, I fear, is winning. To them, I say, stay away from Israel. You know nothing of its complexities and are guided by your idiotic Jew hatred. To them, Zionist is a term to cover all their prejudices. To us, there is a broader truth. I speak only to you. We know Zionism has many layers, basically the SOB labor Zionists who founded Israel and the conservative and religious Zionists who they hunted and victimized. In the mid-90s, they made a huge mistake by murdering Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in a highly flawed plot, which I easily uncovered. The idea was to blame religious conservatives for the murder, but I showed in a best-selling book, Who Murdered Yitzhak Rabin, it didn't wash. So impressed by my success was Rabbi Meshulum that he invited me to his home, and there I saw the fruits of his success. A Sephardic Uncle Tom, Police Minister Moshe Shachai, had sent some 2,000 ground troops to surround Meshulum's home and shoot it up. I counted 60 bullet holes in the walls before getting the picture. One of his congregants, Shlomo Asulin, died in the barrage. Why all the police terror to shut down Rabbi Meshulum? And then Barry Chamish wrote, this will be one of the Jewish people's sins that will lead to the destruction of Israel. Now, what I'm saying is that we all need to step back and take our time and to realize what these disclosures mean. It defuses the whole plot. And because we have this hero, Barry Chamish, these sins are washed away. And the purpose, the Israelis and the Zionists were being made into scapegoats. Some of them probably were complicit, but the fact that this scheme has been completely exposed, that means it doesn't work. And that means that we do not have to be captive to this little trap. It's a trap. And when you know it's a trap and you see how the trap was laid, it doesn't work anymore. We have defused it because of Barry Chamish's heroism. Okay, and let me read again. This was something that I had said on DCTV, quoting Barry Chamish. In the 1950s, immigrants from Yemen, knowing little Hebrew and unable to defend themselves, saw their children by the thousands disappear in Israel. Rabbi Meshulum estimated 4,500 lost babies, of whom 4,000 were shipped to America in cages. and he acquired photos of the cages. 500 were sent for adoption in Israel, but the ever-sophisticated Attorney General Miriam Ben-Porat got a daughter by this means. I had to wonder why. Again, these are Barry Chamish's words. The next time I met Rabbi Meshulam, I found out why. This time it was in a basement lockup of Sharon prison. He blasted religious music and revealed, quote, in the 1950s, Shimon Peres was head of the Israeli Atomic Agency Commission. It seems not enough was known about the effects of radiation on human beings. He promised the Americans a unique people to experiment on in return for their knowledge to turn Israel nuclear. The children died ghastly deaths, and Peres later organized the murder of Rabin, which brought me and Meshulam together. He asked me to be his movement's spokesman, but it was by then far too infiltrated for me to have a chance. If you care to know how deep this infiltration is, Google Hameraglim, that's spelled Hameraglim, to watch the likes of Rab Aviner or Idmar Ben-Gvir at work, or get a Lisa. Till then, satisfy yourselves with a letter from a correspondent thanking me for, quote, keeping the issue alive, followed by a chance to hear me in English or Hebrew, and concluding with a new book review from the left-wing Haaretz. Rabbi Meshulam returned from Sharon prison, an invalid unable to continue his quest for justice. I escaped to America under duress, but the Yemenite babies won't go away. Okay, and let me read you a little more. This was sent to me by the Israeli Mossad agent on Tuesday morning. Hi, Karen. I just listened to your last video and was very concerned about your attack. I hope you're okay. We have a lot of catching up to do. I think about you often. Your girls must be young ladies by now. I remember their bat mitzvah. Be in touch. Okay. And so I called that morning, and we discussed the conversation that I was telling you, that this trap had been exposed many times and was no longer working, and therefore the criminals who thought that they were going to manipulate people ought to realize that they're just simply exposed. They're simply exposed. Okay. Now, after I learned of Barry's death, I got in touch with people that I'm close with so that everybody understood that he had gone to his maker, a hero for all of us. And so I heard back from Betsy Malone. Karen, so sorry to learn of Barry Chamish's death. We all owe him one. I'm praying for his eternal soul. And when I heard of his death Wednesday, I had sent an email to Betsy. I said, this was why I was not ready to go to bed tonight. Barry, I'm so sorry to learn of your death just now. And here is the article that I read about Barry Chamish's death. Writer and conspiracy theorist Barry Chamish passed away this Tuesday from an apparent heart attack. He was 64 years old. Relatives say Chamish was found lifeless in his Florida apartment on Tuesday. No time has yet been set for the funeral. So he died the evening after the morning that I discussed the significance of his exposures to the Mossad. With great sadness, I must announce the passing away of my father, the journalist and writer Barry Chamish, age 64, Chamish's son Ariel announced via Facebook. Born in Winnipeg, Canada, Chamish moved to Israel in 1975, becoming a freelance writer and author of more than a dozen books. His work appeared in a number of popular American publications, including The Atlantic, and Chamish was featured... Sorry, I'm being distracted here. In a television special on NBC and Fox, Chamish was best known for his conspiracy theories regarding the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. And again, the word conspiracy theory, we know that was invented by the CIA so that people wouldn't really pay attention to anybody that was telling them the truth. So next time you hear conspiracy theory, just substitute the word truth teller and see if it is a little easier to follow what you're being told. Despite an admission of guilt by Yigal Amir, now serving a life sentence, Chamish has claimed that a conspiracy emanating from within the Israeli government plotted the Rabin assassination. In his 1998 book, Who Murdered Yitzhak Rabin, Chamish claims that based on police reports and ballistic evidence, Amir could not have been the killer. Chamish also alleged other senior Israeli officials, including Raphael Eitan, Haim Bar-Lev, Leah Rabin, and Rehav Ze'evi, were also victims of a vast conspiracy within the Israeli government and Shin Bet security agency. After publishing his theory regarding the Rabin assassination, Chamish claimed to be the victim of a long-running campaign of harassment by the Shin Bet, which he accused of targeting him for his role in exposing the conspiracy. Okay, and then I wanted to read you something that I just received about the European Union. This is from Bengt Carlson. What you have now is you have the exposure of all of these complicit parties. They are completely exposed. So this again is a quote from Bengt Carlson. Who are these people that Van Rompuy, himself schooled by the Jesuits at St. Jan Berkman's College in Brussels, was talking about? First of all, there's José Manuel Barroso, President of the European Commission. Secondly, there is Jean-Claude Juncker, Prime Minister of Luxembourg and Chairman of the Eurogroup. Van Rompuy also schooled in the Roman Jesuit college Istituto Massimiliano Massimo. The Italian Prime Minister Mario Monti and his Spanish colleague Mariano Rajoy have also been shaped by Jesuit colleges, Van Rompuy cheerfully added. Fortunately, there is Angela Merkel, the stubborn daughter of a vicar from the former DDR, to act as a counterweight. Listening to Van Rompuy, you will instantly notice the similarities of the Jesuits with Europe. Jesuits formed the vanguard of the Catholic Church, like European elite is the vanguard of the European integration. Both portray themselves as the elite, elevated above the ordinary people. Their methods are very similar. A sophisticated lie or purposeful deception is allowed when framed in the interest of the greater goal. A barely contained cynicism typifies the attitude toward the normal citizen, the ignorant fool who within a democracy needs to be protected from himself. The Catholic and European elites work through inner circles. The rest is prose. Van Rompuy, Barroso, Monti, and Rajoy are frequent visitors at papal audiences. Sorry, I just scrolled a little too far. I'll get it back. It is not surprising that this mentality leaves traces in the European structure and working methods. The ECB has a governing council of 23 members, among which are the 6 members of the executive board. The ECB setup is hardly different from the Vatican. The governing council ranks no women, is not accountable to a parliament, and the minutes of its meetings are classified. The American Federal Reserve Bank and the Bank of Japan have to publish the minutes from their board meetings. The ECB plays a central role in the Eurozone, moving around billions of euros, but no one knows how the bank in Frankfurt makes decisions. At least the Pope has a butler exposing the secrets. Admittedly, Euro-Jesuits are intellectually superior. They're way smarter than Guy Verhofstadt, leader of the Liberal faction in the European Parliament, and his Green counterpart, Daniel Cohn-Bendit. In their book, For Europe, they scream their goals at the top of their lungs: a federal Europe with one government, one European tax, and one army. The only thing that's missing is one secret service and one leader. So Europe is back to where it started. Put this to a referendum and the United States of Europe is limited to Italy and Belgium. Even sillier is the final report of a handful of ministers of foreign affairs on the future of Europe. The report is signed by 11 out of the 27 member states, a minority. Among them, the Netherlands, the usual suspect, the UK, did not sign, and neither did Sweden, Finland. Of the new member states, only Poland signed. The conclusion of the group, which is the euro, is the most powerful symbol of European integration. The many rescue operations and emergency funds are conveniently ignored. Some amongst the 11 ministers cite it's not clear which ones argue in favor of a European army. Such an army will undoubtedly be a paper tiger because the armies of the Euro countries are shrinking rapidly as a result of the crisis. Surprisingly, Greece spends the most on its military per capita, yet Greece did not sign. In short, these 11 ministers, like a disoriented soccer team, excel at scoring in their own net. That is something that would never happen to the Euro-Jesuits. Their report, which is called Toward a Genuine Economic and Monetary Union, only consists of building blocks and suggestions. The report suggests implementing a European deposit guarantee scheme. Nothing dramatic, of course. It's just a suggestion. In a painless exercise of words, citizens are molded into a thinking process that goes beyond them. As soon as they realize what those building blocks are meant to create, they're already trapped in it. What used to be suggestions will be a fait accompli, and those who object are labeled as unreasonably and factious as populists. Meanwhile, the never-elected Prime Minister Monti has announced that he will start a European campaign against populism. Van Rompuy, also never elected, immediately gave him his support. Monti had earlier stated that national parliaments should not get in the way of European leaders, thereby referring to the German Bundestag. They have to be educated. Jesuits lead the people who are in turn supposed to follow. What is populism to them? It's the ignorant who refuse to follow the angry Greeks, the protesting Spaniards, the concerned Germans, and the Euro-critical Dutch. A Europe with such an elitist mentality needs a reformation, but that is something Jesuits International detest. What an annoying populist he was, that Martin Luther. Okay, so that's my report, and I will get back to you as things progress. But again, the underlying takeaway from all of this is that Barry Chamish has gone to meet his maker, having given us the necessary information so that we know what the lies are, and all of these crooks are completely unmasked. Their scheme is in dust. And that's the report for the 27th of August. Thank you.